Welcome to my backyard, everyone. Today I'm going to tell you a story about my grandmother who lived here in Minneapolis. She lived in a high-rise over on Cedar Avenue, which was also called Snus Boulevard because so many Scandinavians lived there. I used to visit her there, and she would give me all kinds of good things to eat, and she would tell me stories about my family. And she even taught me a little bit of Swedish. I'm going to start by playing her favorite dance tune. It's called Johan på Snippen. It goes like this. But I really want you to clap along and feel the beat of that schottis. And the best way to do that is like this. You go slow, slow, fast, fast, fast. Try it. Slow, slow, fast, fast, fast. Keep going. Slow, slow, fast, fast, fast. 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 Slow, slow. Were you able to catch the beat? I hope so. When I would come to visit my grandmother on Cedar Avenue, we would go to her high-rise building and we would take the elevator up to the 4th floor, and then we would go down to her door and we'd knock on the door and she'd open the door, and the first thing she'd do is give me a great big hug. And then she'd say, "Would you like something to eat?" And we'd go in, and of course I was always hungry after a trip. And she would have made homemade soup and homemade bread, as much as we could eat. And then she would add cookies and cake and candy, as much as you could eat. And after you'd had all that food, then she would start bringing out the weird food, like lefse. Now lefse looks like a flour tortilla. It's round and it's creamy white with brown spots all over it. And you spread butter on it and put some sugar on it and roll it up and eat it. It's so good. It even has potatoes in it, so it's good for you. The other food she would give me that I especially learned to love was called pickled herring. Now pickled herring is a long skinny fish that they cut into pieces and they put it in a jar with vinegar and spices, and they leave it for a couple weeks. And what it really turns out to be is fish pickles. What's so great about it is it's kind of sour and sweet and kind of gushy to eat. And so most people, when you tell them about pickled herring, they would scrunch up their face and they'll say, "No way am I going to eat that." And that's the best part. When you eat it, you can just put it in your mouth and say how good it tastes, and people are amazed that you can even eat that pickled fish. My favorite thing, though, that I think my grandmother made for me was something she called skinny pancakes. There's those real thin pancakes. The French call them crepes. Now my dad made really good pancakes, but they were the fat ones, and he didn't know how to make the skinny ones. So when we'd go to Grandma's, we always had skinny pancakes every morning. And I would eat about 20 of them. And pretty soon I was so full I could barely move, and I would say, "Grandma, I can't eat anything more." And then she would sing me the world's silliest song. Now this is a song she learned from her mom. And her mom came from the southernmost part of Sweden called Skåne. And if you come from Skåne, you are called a skåning. It's like we come from Minnesota, so we're called Minnesotans. Anyway, this song is about the people from Skåne, the Skåning. See if you think it's the world's silliest song. You Skåning, you eat your porridge in the morning. Put some honey on it, then get thick and fat. You get so thick and fat, you get so thick and fat. You put some honey on it, and then get thick and fat. Here's what it sounds like in Swedish. Du Skåning, i morgon ska du äta och doppa den i honung så blir du tjock och fett. Så blir du tjock och fett, så blir du tjock och fett. Och doppa den i honung så blir du tjock och fett. Now there's a clapping game you can do to this song too. It goes like this. You go down and up, just simply like that. So we go, you Skåning, you eat your porridge in the morn. Put some honey on it, then get thick and on the word fat, you have to grab your tummy and go, fat. You get so thick and fat, you get so thick and fat. You put some honey on it and then get thick and fat. Let's try it together. Ready? On the word you bring your hands up. You Skåning, you eat your porridge in the morn. Put some honey on it, then get thick and fat. You get so thick and fat, you get so thick and fat. You put some honey on it, and then get thick and fat. Now I'll play the accordion, and you do the clapping. Is everybody ready to bring your hands up? On the word you. You Skåning, you eat your porridge in the morning. Put some honey on it, then get thick and fat. You get so thick and fat, you get so thick and fat. You put some honey on it, and then get thick and fat. Once more. You Skåning, you eat your porridge in the morning. Put some honey on it, then get thick and fat. You get so thick and fat, you get so thick and fat. You put some honey on it, and then get thick and fat. Now, so you can keep up with me. I'm going to play another tune, clap two ways. Good job. Grandma taught me that silly song about coming from that place called Skåne and eating till you get thick and fat. But she also said another little rhyme to me that I really learned to love. It was called Rida Rida Ranka, and you would use it to bounce a baby on your foot. You would go, Rida Rida Ranka, hästen heter Blanka, var skall du rida till en liten piga? And later on I found a melody for it in another little part of the verse, and it sounded like this. I'll play it for you now. On this instrument, this is called a dulcimer. In Sweden they have an instrument like this too. They call it the hummel. It has more strings, but this is really an instrument that was played a lot here in America, and part of the inspiration came from instruments like the hummel in Sweden, and when people brought those instruments from Europe here to America. Anyway, here is this song called Rida Rida Ranka. I'll sing it in Swedish and in English. Rida Rida Ranka, hästen heter Blanka, Ranka, var skall du rida? Jag ska ut och fria till en liten piga. Riding, riding, riding on your horsey striding. Where shall we go riding? In the countryside, oh, to find a little girl. Oh. And here's another tune, see if you can keep. Starts to ride out over the fields. This is the coffee pot that my grandmother used to use when she served coffee to her company that would come to visit her. She had an ordinary everyday coffee pot that was silver with a black knob on top, but this was her special coffee pot for company. I think she liked it because of the flower designs that are very Swedish in the way they're made, and also the Swedish words that are on the coffee pot that say, "Coffee is the best drink in all the world." Now, when she made coffee in this pot, she made it a special way. It was called egg coffee. She would put the grounds in the bottom of the pot, add cold water all the way up toward the top, and then put it on the stove to boil. And pretty soon you would get that special, wonderful smell of coffee cooking. And then, just before she would serve it, she would take an egg and crack it into a little shaker, add some water, shake it up, and pour some of that egg and water mixture into the coffee pot. So when she poured it into your cup, the coffee had turned a beautiful golden brown. Now there were a few bits of coffee in there, or egg mixture in there, so she'd always pour it through a sieve so that you wouldn't get that in your cup. And of course the best part was, when she served you coffee, it also meant you got more cookies and more cake. Again, most of them things she had baked herself. We just called it coffee, but I think the Swedes call it fika. My grandmother had many, many knickknacks, stuff, on her shelves in her apartment. But one of my favorite things was this little orange Dala hest, or Dala horse. This is a little play horse that comes from Sweden, a special part of Sweden called Dalarna. In this little town called Nusnäs, there are two factories where they still make these horses by hand. They cut them and carve them and sand them, and then they paint them by hand with this beautiful flowered painting that you see all over Sweden. People still go there and buy these horses and bring them home and put them on their shelves to show that they're of Swedish heritage. Now these horses go way back, because 120 years ago there weren't toy stores where you could go buy toys. So parents and grandparents would make little wooden things for their kids to play with. And on the farms where a lot of people lived 120 years ago in Sweden, the horse was very important. It would pull their wagon so they could get around, and it would also pull the equipment and help them plow the fields. So the horse was very important. So it made sense when the children had a toy that they had a toy that represented the horse, which was so important to people in Sweden. Here's another toy that Swedish kids might have had here in Minnesota 100 years ago. It's called a lumberjack. And I always thought it was an Irish lumberjack. But then I was at a festival one time and introduced it as an Irish lumberjack. And a man from South Dakota came up to me and said, "It isn't Irish and it isn't a lumberjack. It's called a jump-and-yiminy and it's Swedish." And he said, "I know, because we had a Swedish hired hand, someone who worked on our farm, and he made them, and that's what he called them." Well, whatever they're called, I'm sure some Swedish kids here in Minnesota got to play these instruments. I'm going to play it for you now so you can see how it works. And maybe I'll sing a little bit of that song, Du Skåne. You sit on the board, you bounce the board with your fist, and the doll steps on there and starts dancing. You Skåning, you eat your porridge in the morning, put some honey on it, then get thick and fat. You get so thick and fat, you get so thick and fat. You put some honey on it and then get thick and fat. You Skåning, you eat your porridge in the morning, put some honey on it, then get thick and fat. You get so thick and fat, you get so thick and fat. You put some honey on it and then get thick and fat. That's the Swedish jump-and-yiminy. I'm really glad that you could watch these videos today and learn a little bit about what it was like for me growing up with a grandma who had Swedish heritage. I hope you enjoyed the stories and the songs. I also want to tell you that I have a website where I have some singing games that you can learn and do with your friends and with your family. The website is located at swedishsonggames.info. And there you can find the music, you can find audio recordings, there are videos of kids doing the dances, and there's even a place where you can learn the language so you can sing along with the music and with the songs. Again, it's called swedishsonggames.info. We'll try and get your teachers to give you the website in a printed matter too, so that you can have that and look that up and try some of those games. I hope you enjoy them. Thank you for watching today.